Hello and welcome to the UXT break. In this episode, I'm looking at moderating a usability test in a foreign language. This question comes from Ivan Plotnikova. And Ivan asks, I'm about to run a usability test in Honduras. If we run the test in Spanish, the observers won't be able to follow along. Is it okay to recruit English-speaking participants and run the test in English? So this is a common problem. It's one that I've come across before because I've often run usability tests in Europe, outside of the UK, where there have been people coming from the US or the UK to observe. So let's say, for example, I've run a test in Spain. I've got Spanish users, but I've got observers who only speak English. What do you do in that particular situation? So you've got these two options. The one that Ivan is suggesting here is that we recruit participants for the usability test that speak English. If you follow that through, you can see some of the problems that might occur. First of all, the people that we're recruiting, because we're going to recruit people that can speak English well enough that they can be understood by the observers, those people may be different from the users as a whole. I mean, for example, they may have had more years of education than the other groups, the other people that are typical of the users of that system. And as a consequence, there's a risk there that we're getting a biased sample in our research. I think there's another problem as well, though, and the problem is that if we're asking Spanish-speaking people to speak English when they're using an interface that's in Spanish, that's quite a cognitive demand to put on people. They're having to do all this kind of simultaneous translation in their heads. And although I'm sure we'll still find many usability problems if we run a test that way, we're making it unduly hard on our participants, and we're certainly not getting any indicator of more natural behaviour. So here's the technique I've used in the past. So what I've done is I've recruited typical users of the system. Whether or not they speak English is irrelevant because the system is going to be tested in Spanish. We have a usability test moderator who's obviously fluent in Spanish as well, and the whole test is carried out in Spanish. Now we've got our observers who obviously don't speak Spanish. What do they do? Well, what I'll then do is make sure that I have an interpreter who does real-time translation as the session's running. So it's a bit like if you were in the United Nations and you were wearing headphones as some foreign dignitary was giving a speech. It's the same kind of thing. You'll hear both what the moderator and what the participant are saying. Now, when it comes to recording the sessions as well, one thing that I'll do is I'll put the audio from the test room, so the Spanish audio, if you like, I'll make sure that feeds into the left audio channel, and the audio from the interpreter, I'll put that into the right audio channel. And then when I listen back to the videos afterwards, I can listen both in English if I need to, but if I need to check something in Spanish because I'm not entirely sure that the interpreter managed to translate it properly, then I can play the Spanish channel to someone that speaks Spanish and then can try again at translating for me. So my recommendation is to always run your usability tests in the native language of the people that will be using the system, assuming, of course, that that's the native language of the system itself and that's what they'll be using, rather than ask them to kind of simultaneously translate their thoughts into the English language when they're using it in their native language. I hope you found that useful. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you have any questions you'd like me to answer in future videos, please post them below.